My values are always my values, and that there should be nothing about me working with or in solidarity with another community that's going to compromise my values. My values are about creating an archive of Black creativity, of building a library of resources, of amplifying Black businesses, of documenting these historic, cultural, and generational crafts. And along with those include the importance of Black history, because I feel like we are making Black history as we create the podcast. If there was someone who did not want to work with us because we specialize in and celebrate Black creatives, then that's their loss.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the newest episode of Creatives on Camera. If you're an entrepreneur teaching, designing patterns, or running a shop and feeling like video is just too complicated or time-consuming, you're in the right place. This podcast is your guide to creating video content that connects authentically with your audience, builds your business, and expands your reach without the stress of a huge production or expensive equipment. We make it simple, effective, doable. I'm Lyric Montgomery Kinard, an artist, educator, and host of the show. Join me as we explore practical tips and strategies to help you confidently share your creativity online. Let's get started. What happens when you decide to align your art, your voice, and your values and create your business from that place of truth? Today on Creatives on Camera, I'm talking with Lisa Woolfork, founder of Black Women Stitch and host of the Stitch Please podcast. Lisa is a powerful leader in the sewing and quilting community, building spaces where creativity and social justice meet, and where sewing becomes a mechanism for connection, healing, and change. We'll talk about courage, authenticity, and how knowing what you stand for can shape the kind of creative community you build. Friends, if you enjoy these conversations, please follow the show and leave a review. It helps more artists and teachers find us. Now let's get right into it. Hello, friends. I am so excited today to introduce you to somebody who I've respected and admired and who I consider a friend. Lisa Woolfork is here with us. She is the founder of Black Women Stitch, which is an organization I greatly admire and is doing a much needed and beautiful work out here in the world, serving people with love and strength and commitment. Lisa, why don't you introduce yourself? And let's start by you telling us how you got into the medium and the craft that you are working in, and then we'll move through the journey.
Thank you so much. Hey, friends. Hey, it's Lisa from Black Women Stitch and the Stitch Please podcast. And I am a 6th generation sewist. That means that my mother sewed, my grandmother sewed, my grandmother's grandmother sewed. And when I tell you, I wanted nothing to do with it at all.
Of course.
And then I grew up and went to graduate school and needed a hobby because writing a dissertation was long and kind of painful for me. And so I needed to have something that felt like I could start and finish. And so that's what sewing became. It gave me this opportunity to take this inert piece of fabric and turn it into a duvet cover, you know? So that is how I started, and I totally fell in love with it. And I have been sewing ever since.
Sewing has saved so many people's sanity. It's better than therapy by far.
That's what they say. Now, I would never say that. For me, therapy, I have a lot of
Maybe
friends that say,
both.
Sewing is my therapy. And I'm like, oh, no, ma'am. Therapy is my therapy. Sewing is therapeutic.
There you go.
Sewing
Perfect.
is absolutely therapeutic. It can really bring you back to yourself. Like this dress I'm wearing right now. I am so proud of this doggone little old dress. It is 3 pieces. It is a front, a back, and a sleeve. That's it. And a little neckband. But when I tell you, of course, I also added pockets. There's pockets. I feel so satisfied. And just, I think the British word is chuffed, Chuff. I love that word, chuffed. And that's how I feel. I feel like I look cute, and I look cute in something I made, and it helped me break through I had lost my sojo, and, just having a new project that was like easy and simple could really help just, kickstart things. And it really, really did. And so right now I made another one just like it last night, but in a different fabric. And I think it's that example of how the power of the stitch. And the stitch can mean lots of different things. I think for me and for us, I think we think about it with sewing and quilting, but there's also, embroidery, tatting, cross stitch, counted cross stitch. There's so many, crochet, knitting,
yeah. all the textile work.
Textile arts, all the fiber arts.
And every tradition around the world, every culture has some sort of phenomenal traditional textile work.
Exactly. And I think it's, I think the thing I like to remind people of is that the needle is older than the wheel.
Oh.
The needle is older than the wheel. And if we think about the role that the wheel played in the development of humankind, none of that would have started unless they had some clothes to put on.
You couldn't go anywhere where it's colder than where you are if you can't keep yourself warm, and you have to have a needle for that.
Exactly. And so they found needles that are 60,000 years old. Wow. And so it's something fundamentally human about sewing that I think is worth reminding folks of, even in today's age where everything feels so mechanized. Or fast fashion will tell you that you need to have 72 T-shirts, a month or something, that there's something to be said for the transformative properties of taking a needle and thread, a needle and yarn, a crochet hook and yarn in your hands, and creating something that has never existed before.
That is exactly what it is about creatives and about makers. This ability to bring something into existence, to create order from chaos, to create beauty from something that wasn't there before.
Yes.
That is vital to our existence. And honestly, right now in the world, a lot of our colleagues, a lot of our teachers, we look at the world going up in flames and think, why are we even doing this? It's not important. It doesn't matter. But it does.
It matters
more. I think
more.
It's even more right.
It matters more. This is something that Toni Morrison talked about when, dealing with, times such as these. And she says, this is when artists go to work. That there are people out there who need the artwork that you might create. They need to see it. They need to see people. And especially, again, I am a fan of AI in some contexts, but I am a skeptical user, because my concern is that it is starting to override the human. And starting to, either from military applications where they're trying to allow AI to decide what villages to strike or whatever, to AI recording artists and musicians,
right. Or AI art. Part of what's going on right now, right, is that people don't know what is human and what is real. And that thing where you create something for real that you can see with your hands and that you made, that is real. And the thing about teachers, about you and about the people that are listening, is that it's not just us going to work making the work. We are exponentially spreading that connection, that commitment. And
That's
right.
If
the world goes up in flames and if all the fabric shops close, we still have our stashes, and we're going to need to learn how to hand sew, because you won't be able to go to Walmart and buy a t-shirt anymore.
That's right. And you'll also, I personally have a sewing machine that doesn't require electricity. It's a hand crank. So listen, we can be on your apocalypse teams. So when people start to build their apocalypse teams, they're going to want, a Lyric and a Lisa on their team because we can sew,
and we can had this conversation before.
Yep. We can make up tents. My sewing machine is very heavy duty. It's in a little suitcase. It's a bit heavy, but it's an excellent machine. And it can last into the duration.
Make things happen.
And we can make things and make things happen. But I think for me, I started with a commitment that was already rooted in a certain degree of a vision of social justice.
Tell us about it. Let's talk about teaching online. Maybe you've thought about it, but it feels overwhelming. You're worried about being on camera, not having the right tech, or figuring out how to translate hands-on workshops to a virtual setting. I've been there, but here's the truth. You don't need to be a tech genius or have a big audience to make online teaching work. That's why I'm inviting you to my free Virtual Teaching 101 webinar. I'll show you how to take what you're already doing and turn it into online classes that reach students globally, all with minimal equipment and simple steps. When I made the switch, my income per teaching hour jumped by 7 times compared to in-person workshops, and I'll show you exactly how it can work for you too. Spots are limited, so don't wait. Sign up now at academyforvirtualteaching.com and let's get you started on this incredible journey. I'll see you there.
I came to Black Women Stitch in a rather roundabout way.
First, tell us what it is.
So Black Women Stitch, as I describe it, is the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. It is a digital community where people connect and convene online. We have a robust Patreon section where I do a lot of behind the scenes. And most of the podcast episodes that I have are recorded in Riverside, like we're recording right now, which includes a video component, but I only release the audio component publicly. I do have the video component for the Patreon folks who would like to see. So
we'll put that link, by the way, people. We'll put it in the show notes.
Thank you. So, and in addition, one of our major projects is the Stitch Please podcast. And that is a podcast that centers and celebrates Black women, girls, and femmes in sewing. And we have had very close to 300 episodes. I was going every week for 5 years, from 2019 in September to January 2025.
That's a lot.
and then I had my producer mentor was like, you can't produce every week. We've got to change this up. And then I have another good friend who is a project manager, and she was like, Lisa, if you're going to try to do all these other things, something has to give. And it was a very difficult decision to go every other week. I'm like, no, just clone me. I can do it. Make another one of me that's just like me.
Get out CRISPR technology. Take some Lisa.
Exactly. I'm sure they're going to have that figured out by next week, right? So I decided to go every other week, but we still have amassed like very many episodes. And that's something I really am grateful for, because we have had so many conversations with so many different types of folks in different areas. We've talked to museum curators, fashion design professors. I talked with a fashion student from the Rhode Island School of Design in her first year at fashion school. And then I talked with her again 4 years later as she was preparing for New York and Paris Fashion Week.
Nice.
So it's been really great to have that kind of longevity, been able to interview Bisa Butler for our 200th episode, which was fantastic. And she was a really great time. We had a lot of fun. And, Smithsonian curators, brand new sewists, home sewists, people that love to sew for their family or their kids, just so many types of folks involved in creating with needle and thread, creating in the fiber arts, making clothes, designing them, housewares, all sorts of things.
What a beautiful encyclopedia and repository of human history and stories that, history often gets told by the victor, right?
Yes.
And the everyday lives are what we miss, but they are the ones that will teach us what the world is really like.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you were building this vital kind of resource and something for the future.
Yes, that is what I like to think. I like to think that this archive, that someone who wants to learn to sew today, or someone who wanted to learn, someone who wants to learn to sew in a year from now, will have so many points of entry. They can talk about what it means to make a bra. They can listen to someone talk about their first quilt. They can listen to why you might want to go to a sewing retreat. They can learn more about the fabric district of Los Angeles. There's all of these different things that are available. You know, choosing your first machine, how to sit at the machine properly so you can sew and not be sore. Like all of these other things that we might not think of, and that beginners will not think of because they're just starting. So I like to think that what we're doing at the Stitch Please podcast is inviting new sewists to have someone sit next to them in the sewing space.
Someone that's a beautiful way to think of a podcast. That's, you know, just like we're trying to hear, you know, all of our beautiful colleagues who are thinking or in the middle of building online businesses.
Yes.
You know, sit next to us and see all the different ways that can happen. One of the things that I think is vital about what you've created, and probably the necessary reason why, and the thing that other people, if we're not going to be just a podcaster, right? That's such a horrible word. That is not applicable.
I hear what you're saying. No
if
offense
people
taken.
Are going to right. If people are going to do things outside of podcasting, and that's one of your main things, we can still learn, because what has been created as a result of what your podcast does is community.
Yes.
It's connecting people through this phenomenal technology that we are so blessed to have access to.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
So tell us about the underlying reason. We skipped straight from it's in my DNA sewist to look what I've got now. Let's look back at a little bit of the middle of the journey. So how did you go from I just love to sew and it makes me happy and it's therapeutic?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to say that from now on. You've taught me something important. To what you've got right now. Why did that happen? How did it happen? Was it planned? Or did it organically grow and evolve? Everything evolves, but you know what I mean, right? Tell us your journey.
So it was not planned. And in some ways, I did everything I could not to plan it. I was already busy. You know, I have a very busy day job. I have 2 small kids. When they're not small anymore, but at the time they were. And when I graduated from and got my PhD, I had done some internships with a quilter in Wisconsin, and she was really very kind. I had taken sewing classes at local dealerships and had even attended a retreat, which I had never done before, a quilt retreat. Now, the community that I was embroiled with in Madison, Wisconsin, the quilting community, were all white, older ladies. Madison, Wisconsin was actually a pretty fun place to be because that's where they recorded Sewing with Nancy.
Oh, cool.
Sewing with Nancy was recorded
that was one of my shows way back when.
It was recorded right there in Madison, Wisconsin at the public TV station. And then Nancy Zeman had a warehouse in a town called, I think it was Janesville, I think it was. And I remember Riley, who is now a whole adult, was a baby in a stroller. And we're walking around the warehouse sale. And Nancy Zeman walks over and says hi. And I'm like, oh, hi, Nancy Zeman. And then I'm like, Riley, it's Nancy Zeman, but it was before cell phones and before you could take pictures of everything. But it was really, that was where I got a formal education in sewing because sewing came to me when I needed it. It came to me when I was in graduate school, writing a dissertation, doing this research, and I just wanted a hobby that would let me get out of my own head and into my hands. And sewing became that. And so I had been accustomed to being like the only Black person at these events. And then when I moved from Wisconsin to Charlottesville, I ended up having similar experiences. I work at a predominantly white institution. The Quilt Guild there was also predominantly white. I also worked with there were other communities that were, because let's think about retreats. Like once you start to like them, you look for them wherever you can go. So it's like, I don't care. It's like, yeah, I'll go to this town 70 minutes away, or I'll go to that one in Richmond, or I'll go to this one. And it became like, one of the things where I just got accustomed to being the only one. Right. And it was fine. It was fine, but it was fine. It was fine. It was fine-ish. It was fine-ish. It was fine enough for me to do it for many, many years. And, you just brush off microaggressions, you brush off awkwardness. I didn't feel like, I brushed off awkwardness. I never felt like I wanted to go in and teach anybody about my life or experiences. We would have some like fun, jokey times and stuff after we developed, some trust. But for me, it was definitely usually the case where I just felt a little bit removed.
Let's talk about this for a moment, because as a white woman in these environments, ever since I started quilting, that's how it's been, right? Almost all white women. I don't see and I don't experience the things you do. It wasn't until I opened myself up to learning and really made dear friends outside of my race that, and it takes a while.
Yes.
To build that trust. And I wasn't trying to do that. Right. But us white women have no clue what you go through in these environments. We don't see it, and we don't mean harm by and large. That doesn't mean that we don't do harm. Right. And I had to get over the very uncomfortable when somebody told me I did something racist. I'm like, wait, I'm not racist. Yes. That's our first defensive thing. I didn't mean to do anything. Right. But when you understand the difference between intent and impact, I mean, if I stepped on somebody's toe and they told me it hurt, I would move and I would say sorry, right? I would understand, I would learn, I would change. And that's what... It's a learned behavior and experience that we white women have to get over our discomfort to hear and understand. If you feel comfortable, would you be willing to just tell us one or two things that you experienced that are uncomfortable that we in the quilt world wouldn't understand? Like, I've attended Black women's sewing circles, and there are beautiful, beautiful groups. And the white men, well, why don't they come to ours? And after you learn, it's like, well, they have good reasons.
Yeah, it's like, welcome. It would be things like on one particular incident, there was like this lady, she was one of the people that was over the retreat. And she was like, well, I remember one time I was driving in Georgia and maybe outside of Atlanta. And then this white man, we had to pull over on the side of the road because something wrong with our car. And then a white man came over and helped us and said, I'm going to stand here with you ladies because, I just want you all to be safe. And we were really grateful for that. And so that might be a great story for this person, about how they felt like, protected or whatever. But for me hearing it's like you needed a white man, you were in danger because you were two white ladies just stopped by the side of the road, like that, and protecting you from who? And for me, it felt like they were protecting them from Black people. And so to me, that felt, or they would often say things like after almost every horrible like situation, why didn't they just comply with the police? I just don't understand why you don't listen. The same person who said, well, I don't know why you don't comply, would also brag about, I just told the cop to give me my ticket and get out of my face. So it was a lot of different
you
mental.
bend over and I talk back.
It's a lot of accumulations of things. And what I found that I had to do, I think one of the ones that was most difficult was there was a group that wanted to talk about what they were calling at the time Oriental, and I'm doing quotes here, fabrics. And as part of that, they had these different props, including like a pointy hat, like what's known as like a coolie hat. They had like all of these other, like, these different fortune cookies that they had made. And like, you're supposed to read a fortune. And this one lady, yeah, right. And this one lady was like trying to speak in an accent as part of the presentation. And then this one woman, and this was what shocked me beyond shock. She put her hands on both sides of her face.
No. Oh no, don't tell me.
Right, but next to her eyes, and she pulled her eyes back, pulled the sides of her eyes back. And I could not believe that I was watching someone who was close to my own mother's age behave that way. I was so stunned that after that, I just did not go back. And it wasn't because I'm Asian. It was because it was a terrible thing to do.
Right.
It was
caricaturing.
It was very much caricaturing. It was very much just something I bet they would not have done if there had been an Asian descended person there. I would hope they would not have done any of that. Right. But the fact that they did it at all,
just a little clueless,
it shows. It feels, I think clueless could be a word, but it also could just be careless. Like, yes. I don't care. I think this is fun. I think this is going to be good. I don't imagine it being offensive, at least not offensive to anyone that I'm doing it in front of. And so I think part of the challenge is this notion of innocence. This idea that, well, it was a mistake, or I didn't know, or I'm so clueless, et cetera. You have to teach me. Oh, no. It's so hard. Yeah. And I think that when you're in friendship, when you're in relation with folks, you're absolutely willing to have conversations. Heart-to-heart conversations is how people build trust and how you build friendship. But to expect somehow that I am meant to just go into the world and relate to every white person I encounter that way is ridiculous.
It's exhausting.
I'm not doing it. And so what happened to me was I was organizing in the summer of 2017 here in Charlottesville, Virginia, which had an incursion of white supremacist violence. We had we had a white supremacist torch rally in May. We had a smaller Confederate rally in June. We had a Klan rally in July. And then in August, we had the largest white supremacist gathering in like modern history. And so there was Nazis, there was all of the different folks that you might have seen from January 6th. There was different militia groups. They had batons and torches and shields and baseball helmets and all this kind of stuff. And it was brawls in the street, et cetera, all because we were going to our city voted to take down their Civil War participation trophy. And Charlottesville has a couple of those. And so they came to allegedly protest that, but what they ended up doing was brawling in the streets and being really racist. And the thing that many people might remember is on August 11th at the University of Virginia, which is a historic university. It's very old. It's been around since like 1819. So it's a pretty
Yeah,
storied
this
institution.
is the home of Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. That's right. That's exactly right.
And Sally Hemings.
And not Sally Hemings wasn't on this campus.
No,
Sally Hemings was at Monticello.
The area,
But yes.
Charlottesville, sorry.
But listen, UVA and Monticello look the same. They look the same. Absolutely. So I remember that white supremacists marched down the central lawn, the central campus, and then they convened at the Jefferson statue at the front of the university. And there they attacked students and community members who had, stood there to confront them, right? Because they wanted to take a stand to say, hey, we don't accept this in our community. You don't get to come here and shout anti-Semitic slogans and, with fire and threaten people. Like, that's not something that we as a community want to tolerate. And that's why the students and community members were assembled there. They were attacked. People threw torches on them. One person who was actually a librarian ended up in the hospital with a stroke after being hit and attacked. And I was across the street at a church. They were having this huge prayer meeting. And I was also doing an interview with Cornel West about the rise of fascism and the need to confront it. And someone ran in and said, hey, the Klan is outside. We, just stay here until we get some more news. And so then we left the building by the side. We didn't know what had happened until later. And that just set up a really bad weekend because after the white supremacists had marched through, the park and brawls and fights, a national emergency, a state of emergency was declared, and the white supremacists had to leave. And the community members, we got to stay because we live there. And so that was when, as we were marching through the downtown area, a white supremacist drove his car through the crowd of counter protesters and murdered Heather Heyer and injured 20 people. And I was standing there at the intersection for that. And it was a horrific scene, chaos, just awful. And after that, I just felt like I needed a break. I had been really exhausted. We had woken up screaming for weeks. It was just a difficult time. So I had already planned to go to a quilt retreat. And I can say that I was a little hesitant about going. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was going to happen. But when I got there, things just seemed a little off. Though people were like, hey, how are you doing? Oh, I heard that you were there. My church is praying for you. We're so sorry. I was like, yes, it was terrible. It wasn't a good time, et cetera. I didn't come to kind of talk to them about this experience. This was not the community that I would be unburdening myself with. Instead, I was working on some quilt blocks. I had lots of different quilt blocks that I was making, and I ended up getting them finished. I was really excited about it. I just focused on that. I focused. After that event was over and we were packing up, I remember saying goodbye to the organizer, like just waving and saying goodbye. And she just stared at me and didn't say a word. And so I was like, that's rude. Okay, whatever. And then I get home, and about a month later, there is a envelope, just this slim envelope in the mailbox. And I take it out. And when I look inside, it is the check that I have written for the next year's event. There was an event that was held in September, and then there was going to be another event in March. And the check that I had written for the March event was returned to me. And
no explanation, no.
There was no letter, no note, nothing. So my dumb self says, I wonder if this event has been canceled. Let me call the person I know and ask if maybe she got her check sent back. And no, she hadn't. And that's when she explained to me, she said, well, I think you just broke the rule. And I was like, what rule? And she said, the rule was that Charlottesville was not to be discussed, and you discussed it. And so I said, well, that sounds kind of racist. And she was like, no, I don't think she's prejudiced. I think that you just broke the rule. That's all.
A rule that you didn't know about?
The rule that it was interesting because I did remember her saying that, not to me, the organizer never spoke to me the entire time. One of the friends said, oh, well, this person has said that she doesn't want to hear about Charlottesville at all. And I was like, well, should I just go home? people were asking me questions. I was
You didn't stand up in front of the room and say, everybody, this is what happened.
I did not do that. I wanted to get away, and people were asking me how I was and giving care to me, which I thought was actually kind of nice. I thought that was just genuine interest, curiosity. People asked a few questions, and I got on with my life, and continued to, participate in the event. I did not realize that answering questions that people asked counted as talking. And also, if so, that's a stupid rule. I don't want to be here anymore. That's dumb. So at the end of the day, I had been expelled from this group. And when I tell you, Lyric, for the first time, I did not cry a tear when that white supremacist drove his car through this crowd and could have killed me. I had not cried since. I had not thought about it in a way that made me upset. Angry, yes, but not crying. I think for the first time since all of those things had happened, all of those things throughout the entire summer between the Confederates and the Klan and then the torches, I did not shed a single tear until I learned that I had been kicked out of that quilt group. And I was so hurt. I was so hurt. I was so sad. I was like, I've known these folks for over 10 years. What is happening, And then
who
after
are you? How did I not know you were this person?
But I felt sad. I felt like I had lost something. And then I felt embarrassed. I felt embarrassed and I felt ashamed. I felt embarrassed because I asked myself, who did they think I was all this time? Had I been presenting a version of myself that was not my true self, why would they not think I would want to be involved in something like that? Why would they not think I would stand up for the rights of my people and my children? Why would they not think that? Who did they think I was all this time? And then I felt embarrassed. And then I started to feel a bit ashamed. I was like, I have been giving up a lot in order to participate in these events. And it never mattered until it did. And that's when I decided I would never again audition my humanity in exchange for doing something I loved.
Let's stop for a moment and think about how this was a moment when you already knew what your values were.
Yeah.
But you, in that group, perhaps weren't living them out loud. And how, if we don't understand what our values are, and if we hide them, then we can end up presenting ourselves and our business and doing a disservice to the people that we are loving and serving, right? If we wear a mask.
Yes, the mask.
Right. If we don't understand what our values are and understand how to operate in alignment with them in our everyday lives, but especially as a teacher, especially as a business. So what did that experience of realizing you didn't put the mask on purpose?
No, not absolutely not. But I think it definitely comes from being a Black person who is used to working in predominantly white environments.
Yeah, and you just present a way that is acceptable there.
Exactly. There's certain things, someone might say something, but then I don't want to say anything because I don't want to rock the vibe, or I don't want to be bothered, or I don't want to be distracted from my own good time.
It's not your job.
Or I'm on vacation. I don't want to think about this, Right. So I do think that you're absolutely right that knowing your values and being able to stand on those as someone who is authorizing a project, driving a business is absolutely necessary. And I think that of all of the different consequences of this experience was that it really renewed my commitment to articulating my values out loud and from a distance. And so after that painful rejection, and this is another thing that makes me feel a bit ashamed. It's like if they had not kicked me out, Lyric, I would probably still be sitting there. And I would not have all of the amazing joy and happiness and creativity and love and life affirming and culturally responsive, organically, happily Black stuff that I have right now.
You have this beautiful, vibrant presence and community that is, I can't even find a word to describe how supportive and how important and how vital it is for the people you serve. We are bumping up against our time, but we have so much more to talk about. Let's really quickly talk about building a business.
Yes.
Or starting at this very beginning.
Yes.
Of a plan of what you want to do and how finding out what your values, finding out what you really want to do, because your values are about how you want to serve and the legacy you want to leave and the effect you want to have on the world.
Yes.
So sometimes things are really painful. And sometimes living your values out loud can cost you something. So understanding your values compared to the cost, how have you chosen to put those on the scale next to each other and choose which things are important enough to you to give up something else for?
I think it's a beautiful question. What I try to do is to move in such a way that my values are always my values, and that there should be nothing about me working with or in solidarity with another community that's going to compromise my values. My values are, and something that we discuss or that we try to prioritize is about creating an archive of Black creativity, of building a library of resources, of amplifying Black businesses, of documenting these historic, cultural, and generational crafts, and talking about how important and valuable they are. Like, these are what the values are. And along with those include, of course, things about, the importance of Black history, because I feel like we are making Black history as we create the podcast. And it would when you say give up, I think if there was someone who did not want to work with us because we specialize in and celebrate Black creatives, then that's their loss. I am not going to feel badly about someone who doesn't want to work with us because they don't want to be seen as helping Black people. Like, that is no loss to me. The folks who do not align with my values are no loss to me. And that, I think, is a great message for everyone as we start to kind of build our business. You're not trying to build a business to serve everybody in the whole world. You are building a business to serve a specific community that has a specific need. And there are so many riches within that. Financial, sure, but also communal, social, like intellectual. There's lots of benefits in building trust and solidarity with folks. And so I like to, or would like to practice working with those who love, care, and support what I'm doing rather than haters. I don't have time for haters. I hardly have time to deal with the people that love me, let alone the people that hate me.
What were you saying about cloning yourself?
Exactly. I have a separate lower level clone for my haters to talk to.
Right. So one of the things here is that white women especially are not, at least in women's worlds, we don't often have to experience the choice of having to give up something in order to align with our values, right? I've been part of a art curatorial group that, we supported immigrants. It was a controversial exhibit.
Yes.
And some of we were blacklisted by people, so people called people who had hired us and said, you have to cancel your contracts because of these people, and this was a thing that many people had not experienced before. And I am in a completely privileged place where that would not make me lose my house.
Right.
But
that's right.
I think we are at a point in history and a point in time that your people, Black people, have always lived in.
Welcome aboard, everybody.
Here we are
at Oppression 101. We've been here for many hundreds of years, but you guys are just joining us. So, have a seat. It's really going to suck for a while.
Thanks for welcoming us in. But we have to know, gladly stepping aboard, my friend, because we need to be able to live with ourselves and in alignment with our values, because the minute we're not, the minute we're putting on any kind of mask or trying to keep the peace or not rock the boat, we're giving up pieces of ourselves.
Yes.
Right? So,
yes.
Us new to the party, it's time. It is so time.
And you're giving up pieces, you're losing pieces of yourself. Yes, you're giving up pieces of yourself, but you are also endorsing and solidifying the forces arrayed against you.
Exactly. Silence favors the oppressor every single time.
Every time. But you know what else I love? This is a quote from a beloved friend, and she would say, sometimes liberation means disappointing other people.
Yeah, it does.
And what would you rather be? Free or liked?
Exactly. And at this point, it behooves us to think not only for ourselves what we want to leave, but the consequences of being silent for our people, for the next generations.
Yes.
We should be much more afraid of that than afraid of rocking the boat now.
Yes.
Lisa, we're going to put a lot of notes in this description, and I am determined to have you back because we just scratched the surface. We didn't actually get into your whole system, your whole ecosphere, your whole community, and how important it is and how it actually operates and what your plans for it are. There's so much more that I want to pull out and lay on this beautiful cornucopia platter for all of our people to it's so delicious. It's so nourishing. What you're sharing with us. So let's plan to speak again very soon. Until then, where can people find you, Lisa?
Excellent. Thank you so much again, Lyric. And thank you so much to your audience for listening to me and for supporting this episode. You can find Black Women Stitch on the socials. We're on Instagram and Facebook, as well as TikTok and LinkedIn. You can also, if you are so inclined to support our work, you can do that at the Black Women Stitch Patreon. And that's something we are really excited about, that we really do value our community. And it is a wonderful way to connect with other creatives and to support our work. And you can listen to the Stitch Please podcast, which has over 299 episodes, wherever you get your podcast. And that includes Apple Podcasts, Audible, and we even are an Alexa skill. So if you have an Alexa or an Echo and you say, play the Stitch Please podcast, it'll play it.
Oh, sweet. Nice. Well, we can find you and listen, and your voice is beautiful to listen to. So, of course, who wouldn't want to? My friends, make sure you go and listen and support. I will be doing the same. This is beautiful stories, fascinating, interesting, and important history. Lisa, before you go, what is the last thing you made? I think you already answered the question.
The last thing I made was a dress exactly like this in fabric that I bought from South Africa in July. So I went to several different fabric shops, and this is like a neoprene styled knit fabric. And I got it in Cape Town. And now I just finished that dress yesterday because I fell in love with it. And it's a simple sew. And that's the last thing I made.
Oh, sweet. If you have it next time you put it on, we want a picture. And hopefully we'll get it in here before the podcast episode.
Yes, I would love that.
Lisa, my friend, I love you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Love you too. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk again soon. Thank you for all that you are doing to help us put our best foot forward on camera, to make sure we're set up well and have confidence. There's so much to learn. And I think what you are offering is really important. And I say this as somebody who kind of taught herself how to podcast and took a lot of classes and watched a lot of tutorials. To have someone who can say, set up your lighting this way. This is what a key light does. Try this camera angle. Like someone who has done it and been there and can simplify it for you. And also, I think you talk about working with OBS and all these other things.
And mostly at the Academy, we talk about keeping it as simple and efficient and doable as humanly possible, because the more you get complicated later, my friend. Exactly. Right now, you just make it so you can actually do the thing. That's it. The Academy, at Academy for Virtual Teaching, you can find a beautiful community. You can find short and long classes to help you show up your authentic and amazing self to serve and love your people. So my friends, keep creating community, keep teaching that beautiful, peaceful, joyful, therapeutic skill that you can share with the people around you. You make the world beautiful enough to live with. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me on Creatives on Camera. I know there are countless podcasts out there, and I'm honored you spent your time here. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss the next one, please subscribe to the podcast. Then, if you'd like to stay connected and get even more tips on teaching, marketing, and video creation, sign up for my email list at academyforvirtualteaching.com. You'll get exclusive insights and updates delivered straight to your inbox to help you grow your creative business with ease. Lastly, be sure to check the show notes below in the episode description for links to everything mentioned today. And I'll see you in the next episode.